Yes, yes, yes. What is good, everyone? Welcome back into Pinpointed. I'm your host, Alex Lazowski. The NBA Finals is upon us. The Celtics move on to face the Warriors. Let's jump in. My reaction to Game 7 and the whole series. Let us go. Follow us again. Pinpointed Sports on Insta and Pinpointed everywhere else. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. That's where everything is available. Now, okay. So as you know, my prediction originally was Celtics lose in 7 to the Bucks. But I originally said if the Celtics actually could make it to the finals, they have to play a 7-game series. And they really did. They played a 7-game series against the Bucks. They were able to pull that one off. They played a 7-game series against the Heat. They pulled that one off. The Brooklyn Nets one was a little bit of an anomaly, but no one really expected them to be a sweep. And a lot said 6-7 games as well. And now we look at the Warriors series. I thought it would be the Suns, like a lot of people did as well. But this will also look like it's going to be a 7-game series if you look and see based on predictions, 6 or 7. So I was right about that in the fact that every series is going to be difficult for Boston. And you can see going into the series now, Boston is definitely going to be the less rested team. They're going to be the more banged up team as well, as the Warriors have been off for close to a week now. Are going to be coming in these coming days of weeks of rest. They're going to get guys back, Gary Payton, Iguodala, and others. So Boston's definitely going to be the more banged up team with Smart's injuries, Tatum's injuries, Robert Williams' knees, and it's going to be a little more of a difficult challenge. But now let me go back to my reaction here to Game 7. And one of the biggest points I took away from this series is, and it's not in favor of the Celtics, because the Celtics should have been able to beat the Heat before the 7 games. This should have been done in 6 games, without a doubt. Game 4 and 5, Miami looked terrible, lifeless, had no energy whatsoever, no drive. Jimmy was struggling immensely. He had knee inflammation, and that's what a lot of critics called that to be, but couldn't come out to play at all. The Miami Heat were not aggressive whatsoever, didn't go out and play their style of game. And the Celtics really ran roughshod all over them in games 4 and 5. That's why in game 6, you're coming home in Boston, everyone's like, oh my God, the series over. No shot Miami is going to extend this to 7 and potentially win this series in Miami, South Beach. But in Boston, the Celtics didn't play very well. Tatum was struggling from the field. Jaylen Brown wasn't as good as well. And Miami kind of hang in there, and it took a Herculean performance from Jimmy Butler, 47 points to bring this to game 7. So you give credit where credit's due. But Boston, the series should not. Boston dominated most quarters and most games in the series. This should not have been going 7. And that's why I have concerns for Boston, because Miami doesn't have any shooters, really. They were the best three-point shooting team in the entire league, just under 40% in the regular season. But Hero was gone for half the series. Jimmy Butler is their only primary and only offensive scorer. Strus struggled the entire series. Who else you got? Oladipo made a couple shots in game 6 or in game 5. Kyle Lowry coming off his hamstring issue, atrocious. The only good game he had was game 6. PJ Tucker scored 0 points in the game 7. Pretty much non-existent. Bam Adebayo is maybe the only other. Their second option, which is a bad second option to have. He realistically should be a 3rd, 4th, even later on a championship caliber team. So Miami doesn't have any scorers. Milwaukee had better scorers than Miami does. And they're pretty similar, I would say, actually, if you count out Middleton. But I think based on what I watched in the series, it was easier for Milwaukee to get buckets because, again, of Giannis's ability to drive and kick it to the open players than Miami could. And some of those games, Miami was under 90 points for 2. Game 4 and 5, they couldn't get above 90. There was an 18-1 run in game 4 for Boston in the first quarter. And it was 3 minutes to go. For 8 minutes of a quarter, Miami scored 1 point. And this was kind of a trend throughout the series where they struggled to score. And it took Boston 7 games to beat them. Again, not a knock on Boston. You still got the job done. Went to Miami and you won. But there's concerns there. their knockout punch ability. All the great teams had it. Now, the Celtics in the second half of the season had blowout games. They were number one team with the most blowout wins, I think above 20 points in the second half of that season. So they had that ability in the regular season, but I still question their clutch shot making ability in the end of games here in the playoffs, which is that knockout punch. Game 7, they almost threw. They almost threw yesterday's game. They were up 13 with 3 to go. The game should be wraps. You shouldn't allow this game to be close whatsoever if you're up 13 with 3 minutes to go. And I get you're away, home crowd, you make a shot, momentum switches and swings the other way. Sure. But Miami goes on an 11-0 run. Strus hits an incredible 3, cuts it to a 2-point game. Miami literally, honestly, based on that sequence, they don't deserve to win, but I would not have been shocked if Jimmy Butler hit that 3-pointer and the Celtics blew that game. I was not surprised when Jimmy went up for that. I was like, it's over. The Celtics literally just blew another series or another late game scenario like they did in Milwaukee in Game 5. And I don't understand what's Boston's deal. They somehow make it difficult for no reason. Game 5, you're in at home against Milwaukee, ready to seal and take this series away. And couple missed free throws, couple missed rebounds, couple turnovers in a minute span. At the end of the game, they lose while they dominated for most of that game or most of that series. And then kudos to them winning Game 6 and 7 at Milwaukee and then in Boston. And then you come to Miami. Game 6 at home, the entire momentum is shifted your way and you almost lay a duck. You lay literally an egg for that performance. And again, there was a close game. They kind of got it at the end there. Strus hit a miraculous 3 in Game 6 as well to kind of seal that deal. But for some reason, my confidence in the Celtics still is not at an all-time high. And it's still the same issue I had in the beginning, which is why I didn't pick them to win. We saw this too many times in late game situations where they don't come through. And I gave you that example of Game 5 against Milwaukee. Game 7, they almost just threw. They literally wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy Butler made that, but the Celtics would not be able to make that shot on the way through. And they got the Game 1 winner, a layup in Brooklyn. So with major props to them. And they've been in that situation a bunch of times before. But my overall take was Miami was pretty much the more impressive team based on the fact that they were very limited compared to Boston. Boston does not come out of the series looking like a juggernaut. They don't come out looking up from the series like the team to beat. They're going to be the underdogs against the Warriors, which is a good thing for Boston. Having the underdog mentality for them. Because whenever they've been favorites or they've been the team that should win, they've struggled. Same thing here. They were the better team against Miami throughout the entire series. And it took them 7 games to beat them. And Miami doesn't even have a nasty supporting cast. Hero was out for half that series and they still struggled. Butler took 3 games off that series when he couldn't score whatsoever with injuries and whatnot. So my confidence going into the finals is difficult because you want to take away the good things, but then as well, they are extending these series for no reason. And last night could have been a great opportunity for the Miami Heat to take that game over because the Celtics were just giving it to them. And you just take a look. Shooting wise, they were atrocious, the Celtics. Brown was 1 for 5 from 3. Smart was 3 of 10 for 3. Smart in the last 2 minutes had 3 wide open 3-point looks and missed all of them. Any one of those go in and it softens the game for the Celtics, gives them a bigger lead, quiets the crowd, and essentially eliminates Miami from coming back. Misses all 3. Horford had to hurry and take a couple of 3-pointers. He was 1 for 6. Nothing there. He struggled from outside. And again, Boston shot decent, 40% from the field. Miami shot 42, so it was very even. And Miami shot even worse from 3. Boston was 35%, which is okay. And Miami was only 20. But there's a trend here of Celtics not being able to close out these games. And given the benefit of the doubt, they're in the finals, so they did it. But I have concerns. And my prediction for the NBA Finals will be next on the next episode. Maybe I'm showing you which way I lean potentially with some of these concerns, but you never know. Boston might be able to pull out here against the Warriors, and it's going to be one hell of a series, in my opinion.
I think I'm in love, say it way too often. I can't play these games, think I'm switching up the offense. See me in LA, I'll be moving cautious, I can feel no pain.